And we are back and we are talking about artificial intelligence. Now, we say we're going to, I think we have to be pretty specific about how we are talking about artificial intelligence here because we're not yet quite at the general artificial intelligence replacing lawyers. But essentially, why this is coming up particularly right now is, as Conrad mentioned in the news, if you're on the internet, you probably saw something about this chat GPT thing. So, Conrad, why don't you take a second and tell us what chat GPT is
So first off,
generally?
very, very generally, ChatGPT is if you can imagine that you wanted to write an article about how to talk to your kids about divorce in 1,000 words in the style of, let's say, Shakespeare. Um, Very quickly, that content would come back to you. Now, it is based on human input to guide and improve the quality of what comes back. And if you don't believe me that this is truly astounding, go do that. Like, go, I haven't done the divorce in the style of Shakespeare, but like, try it. If you want, it is very, very, very impressive. And my first two thoughts when I first got my hands on this were, one, are my kids ever going to write their essays ever again? I mean, this is a 30-second answer to the 2,000-word essay to talk about the social implications of Lord of the Flies as it pertains to the Ukrainian conflict. If you want something like that, done, right? And
The
it's
end of writing, the
it,
end of human writing is upon us.
it is pretty amazing. If you don't, if you're sitting there, I will go so far, and Guy's going to give a bit more of a cynical view on this, but I genuinely believe that this is a disruptor to Google and search the way we know it, both in terms of behavior of consumers, as well as Google is really going to have to think about how they deal with AI generated content. And I also thought, the other thing I thought about, what are those, you and I are both very good friends with John Reed. We are good friends. We spend a lot of our clients' money generating content. Alan Watson also does an amazing job generating content. I'll shout those guys out, but like, I wouldn't want to be sitting in their chair right now. Guy, can you give a bit of a counterpoint on why, especially legal content that's done through AI, may be problematic?
Yes, John Reed and Alan Watson have nothing to worry about. This is the rise of the artificial intelligence spam. So, a couple things here. First of all, this isn't new. Uh, Jarvis AI has been spinning out content. I remember, what it reminds me of too. And the AI nerds are going to hate this, but it makes me harken back to Unique Article Wizard and spinning content, which is not the same as that. But the point in the context of marketing and search, and you mentioned Google's got a helpful content update. Um, Believe me, this is not new to Google. And I think Google is interested in the rise of AI generated spam. But number one, go ahead and try to take your example of breaking down what the state of Michigan's laws are about child custody and type that into Chat GPT and see what you get. And guess what, lawyers? The lawyers that are emailing me about wanting to put this all over your site, uh, I hope at the very least you better have someone editing it. And that's kind of my thing because could it play a role? For sure, it could. Is it ready for just open API to my back of my website and start pumping out articles and posts? No, it is not. It needs review, especially in the legal context. And again, I'm the big haterade of all signals but links. And I'll tell you, you can go ahead. I promise you, if you just start churning out, you take a demand media approach where you're just firing out new pages
Yeah.
from artificial spun content. I promise you, over time, Google will catch on to you, and they are working very hard to ferret this out. And number 3, I actually don't know what number I'm on counterpoints, but um, even I was just reading the OpenAI. I believe it's the OpenAI people. If I'm wrong about that, you can correct me in the notes. They're working on ways to watermark AI generated content because, to me, this is our chance to be prepared for the real danger that's coming, which is deep fakes, right? Which is an AI generated video content purporting to be a lawyer, but it's actually the AI. And again, this AI is not general artificial intelligence. This is not like it's learning about the nature of the universe stuff and like taking over humanity. This is, as Conrad said, AI assisted learning from human inputs. And so there's still a big garbage in, garbage out aspect to it.
So let me pull two things out of that. Google has been very specific that AI generated content is a no-no, and they are working to identify that. The question is whether or not they can do that effectively. The other question I have from a very, very big perspective is, what if the AI generated content is better than most of the drivel that's showing up on? Does that actually, does Google, why does Google care if people are getting better content from AI? Why would they push people to poorly written, overly legal, verbose content that's written by lawyers, right?
See, again, you have a couple big assumptions in there. Like, Google doesn't want to push human written, overly verbose, blah 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 either.
True, but what it like so use the example, like, okay, you've got really good AI written content or a bunch of garbage. Where do you send? Where does Google want to send someone? That what they're saying right now is
So
they'd
here's my
rather send them
question
to
to you:
garbage. Yeah.
what is good content, Conrad? What is it?
Wow. Are you a philosophy major?
I am. But this is the thing, Google keeps just write great content and everything else sorted out. Well, you know how Google actually measures the quality of content? One way they measure it, whether or not other human beings link to it.
Yeah. Okay, so you're coming back to links. I get that. Okay, but what if you're so let me say this. I am blown away by the quality of content that comes out.
I think can I clarify though?
Yes.
Aren't you blown away that it almost passes the Turing test where you're like you can't tell it's written by a machine? That's what blows you away. Not that the content is like the best content you've ever seen. You just can't believe that a machine wrote that.
So let me, this is going to tie right into my next point. I can't believe that a machine wrote that. It is, and if you don't believe me, like, go play with ChatGPT, and it is amazing. What's more interesting to me, and I think is not that, I think is doable. You talk very accurately about, you know what, can we give legally accurate information through AI driven content about the, nuances of the law in Wisconsin? No. But the whole point of ChatGPT is that it is learned from feedback and input. So the key here, Guy, the thing that really blows my mind, it's not just that a computer can write stuff that really looks like a human wrote it, but when you're talking about the accuracy and the nuances of accuracy, for example, I want to write about divorce laws in Wisconsin. Is AI going to do that on try one? Absolutely not. But one of the geniuses of ChatGPT is the human input that allows you to shape what that looks like. And so I've messed around. I spent all weekend messing with this. And I certainly had it write a couple articles for me that I was like, you know what? You're off. You're missing the point. And through feedback, I can change not just the content and the specificity of the content, I can change the tone of voice, the type of language that is being used. And you can really, really iterate this towards accuracy. Now, I'm not suggesting, frankly, I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't read stuff before it goes live. But the same is frankly true with a lot of the legal writers, right? So a lot of the time we put out content, and I always tell my clients, like, let's look at this, make sure that this is correct. This is no different. And the iteration just happens via AI and computer as opposed to going back to someone to have that rewrite it. So again, this is why I am blown away by this technology.
Well, so when you're talking, mm-hmm, 'AI assisted publishing, I think, No question. It's going to play a big role in that. I think it creates a couple other interesting things. One is that we live in the search world, and in the search world, for many years, we people have been like Google search results suck. People know Google has dominance because they were the best early on. They built brand, and they captured market share, and they pushed everybody else out, and Google's a verb, right? But most people that use Google, they don't actually they're not looking at search results every single day. They're not doing all the analysis of actually what's showing up. They're not looking at the intersection of links and content changes and yada yada yada. But I'll tell you this: for the first time, the Google kind of skepticism about results seems to be becoming more mainstream. And as it relates to the AI thing, I think this only makes that worse. I think people are like, I can't tell now. If I go to Google, am I getting something written by a human being? Am I getting something written by AI? I mean, the same thing's gonna be true with major publisher sites, unless publishers, take a very clear policy stand and saying, hey, look, we're only having human publishers on our site. I think the same thing's coming with video, but it's going to change people's viewpoint, on my view, of the written word on the web, and Google is going to be a part of that, right? And which we already see. I mean, forget about even the AI thing for a second. We already see the shift towards people using social media as quasi search, right? Looking for
Yep.
restaurants and the reason is because they trust. It's about the trust. They trust a recommendation from a person. They don't trust a recommendation from a machine.
Let me counterpoint this.
Go ahead.
And this is where I think the shift of consumer. This is why I believe that the potential for this to be super disruptive to Google is very much there. The potential for someone to start using a ChatGPT like experience to write content for themselves, right? So think about we're living in this our presumption is that I'm looking for X, I'm going to find the answer to X on some website somewhere. I've lived in this world forever. Like my professional career, I've lived in this world. What if it's different? What if the consumer behavior evolves to, I'm in Wisconsin, I'm getting a divorce, I have 3 kids, one has autism, the other likes playing soccer, they're these ages, I want to know how I should talk to my kids about separating with my spouse, right? And now I have okay, please ChatGPT, give me some guidelines on how to have that conversation, right? We've been married for you could think about feeding all of that stuff in and coming back with content that is not 10 things to talk to your kids about divorce. It is about you and I mean, this is long tailed and extreme, but it's a change in the behavior. I don't think that is impossible. I don't think it's even unlikely.
Your own
at this point in time.
personalized Google. You create your own Google.
Right. And so when you talk about trust, do you trust a computer? Do you trust Google? Like where does that trust come from? I don't know that you trust a Google search result that is going to a bunch of content better than another
But you
computer
trusted
set.
you. Let's use your example for a second. If you do the search and you've come to a just blue link for a second, let's not talk about business logo for a second. You come to a blue link about an answer to your question, and you
Yeah.
come to that page. The trust comes from part of the trust. I mean, one is what's written, but let's just say that that's a wash at best. Maybe the AI
Sure.
is even better at the actual written word. But you trust because you're like, this is a human being that I'm going to talk to and hire to deal with this issue. That's where the trust comes from. When I go to when I read when I'm give a shout out to Bill Marler. If I'm doing a search about a listeria outbreak and I come to his page and I read his article and then I go read his bio, I'm like, this person, this human being, has
Yeah.
spent his entire career. That's what I trust. Now, if what if happens when it's like, well, Bill Marler never even wrote this.
Right. Right. But it's
Where's this coming from?
but so I'm going to go back to your point here. Most people don't know who Bill Marler is, right? When they're looking for issues that he covers, right?
But I'm talking about we're talking about now. You're already there. You're on his site. You've read his article.
So
now you're vetting. You're vetting
yep.
the author.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
You're vetting that. My bias here is that the desire for customization and depth of personalized information is very hard for search to replicate that. It's very hard.
It's very hard even for a human being to replicate, right? Like, you take your example. Even Bill Marler, he's not writing blog posts that just speak to the, very specific person who's dealing with a very specific listeria outbreak issue in, Wisconsin that has, two kids and blah, 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 right?
This is exactly my point. I think there's a level of personalization that you can get out of a ChatGPT that is unprecedented. Right now, whether or not that's good content is a question, right? But the ability
now we're going to get super philosophical because it's like, because now you're into like, even if it's wrong and it's written by a computer, do you care because it's telling you what you want to hear?
Well, are we going to cycle back to the echo chamber of social media?
Well, isn't it potentially creating an opportunity for at least a filter bubble? Because I don't know how all this. Anyway, I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, so I don't know how the corpus that's being used. Can you select? Can you be like, only show me, only include these sources in my ChatGPT learning model?
Well, the thing that I think is more like today practical for us is, does this impact SEO? How does this impact SEO content?
Yes, it does.
I mean, Google has been talking about, like, the reason I know Google thinks about this a lot and frankly looks at this somewhat existentially is they've started talking a lot about AI-driven content, right? And how they do not like it.
I think if it's just, it's just, to me, again, it's just another iteration of the arms race between the spammers, right? That's all it is. It's like, it's Unique Article Wizard on super steroids when it comes to actual results, right? Google's like, I don't want to crawl. It's against the guidelines. I don't want to crawl it. I don't want to rank it. If I can avoid it, I want to penalize it. But that's that's true for human generated spam.
The philosophical question that we're coming up here is this content so bad that it's just spam?
Well, it's, again, even if it's quote unquote good, which again is like, what does that even mean? It's against their guidelines. So from their perspective, they're trying to keep it out of the results.
Totally. That to me is the red flag. It's against Google's guidelines, and therefore that my take on that is that means Google is scared of this thing.
Right. I think there's truth to that.
And the question that comes out for me is, there have been no studies on this so far. Can Google really detect AI? And every single SEO who's trying to make a mark on the world is going to try and answer that question with the definitive study on AI-generated content beating Google.
Can Google algorithmically detect paid links?
Yes and no, right?
Right.
The answer is yes and no.
So
money makes a it makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Yeah, money make a world